Anybody here can get it. Treat the game like a scrimmage now. Mess up you with the flow. I swear nigga got no limits now. I've been ballin' for a minute. Whole team full of winners. Anybody here can get it. You tuned into the realest now. Anybody here can get it. Treat the game like a scrimmage now. Mess up you with the flow. I swear nigga got no limits now. I've been ballin' for a minute.
Good to go by Jack.
Whole team full of winners. Anybody here can get it. You tuned
Yeah,
into
I
the
mean,
realest now.
It's not really a name that people
that's
use.
what Tash calls me that. Actually, yeah, no, like actually, to be fair, a lot of the people that I'm like close with call me that. Just because I think they want to get my attention quickly because they know they've got about 5 seconds before I go and do something else.
See, my full name is Gregory, but I've never gone by that because it just
Never gone by Gregory?
No, can you imagine why? Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What about when you're in trouble?
Yeah, when I'm in trouble with my mother, maybe
Yeah.
40, 30 years ago, yeah.
Gregory,
but that was incredibly rare. People use it as a bit of a joke these days. I don't mind. You know, it is what it is. You're stuck with your name, aren't you?
I wouldn't have known. Didn't know, but now you've given it to me. So.
I'll give you another tip, but the middle name is Duncan too, so can you imagine?
Don't tell me that, because I'm going to introduce you that in like 10 episodes.
Oh, well, everything with the like, so. Right, hi guys, welcome to Off the Platform episode. Jackson, help me out.
Mate, honestly, we might be at 20.
Episode 20, is it? Yeah?
Maybe, hang on. Yeah, this is episode 20.
Episode 20, so 20 episodes down. Yep, our little weekly podcast that's been going since, October. So welcome, Jackson, as always. Thank you for coming along.
Wouldn't miss it.
I'm really excited to welcome Alexander Clarke on today. So Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, mate. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So Alex, I am not ashamed to say that Alex does a powerlifting podcast, and it was an inspiration for me, in fact, to talk to Jackson and say, look, I've listened to a few powerlifting podcasts, and Alexander's podcast is one that inspired me to start podcasting as well.
Thank you very much for that. I didn't know that, but I take it as a massive compliment. As I don't know, I guess I don't really see mine as being anything special, but I enjoy doing it, and get a fair good few reviews. So
excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. So not only is Alexander the host of the British Strength Radio podcast, so check that out, by the way. Also editor-in-chief of British Strength magazine. He is a powerlifting coach, and he is also an elite British powerlifter with, I think the very latest, Alex is a 940 total reps and a 920 kg total in sleeves.
In bare knees.
Bare knees, no sleeves at all. Bare knees.
Yeah.
Wow, raw. I didn't think that was still a thing. Yeah, does anyone still do that?
It is, and the only reason it is because if you do the BPU or WPC, the affiliate, you can't do. You can do sleeves, but you can only do sleeves counted as wrapped. So if you want to be raw, you bare knees. If you want it to be counted as raw, you bare knees. Yeah.
Wow, raw. Jackson, when's the last time you saw someone do a bare knee squat?
Mate, when I squatted the bar on like Friday. Like, that's honestly it. I put my sleeves on for 75. Fuck that, man. That's ridiculous. I've heard of that though with BPU. So is that the WPC is like the international affiliate?
Yeah, it's kind of the mother federation, if you will, yeah.
So that's so for them raw as such is bare knees, and then sleeves and wraps are then put together, and then single ply and then multiply. Yeah, or a single ply and multiply put together as well.
No, single ply and multiply separate, yeah.
Okay, so there's the four divisions. Bare knees though, that's disgusting. What did you squat bare knees?
310.
310. How many cricks and cracks on the way down?
The only thing I remember is that the bar rolled up my back. My knees are always bad. I mean, I'm working with someone at the minute to correct that. We're going through a long process of reloading the tendon. It was a good squat apart from the technical thing, which I've figured out now, whereby the bar used to roll up my back. So, yeah.
Why is that, Alex? Is it your grip on the bar? Is it you're too far away? How does it?
It was actually more my stance. When I'm too wide stance-wise, I think it makes me topple a bit. And I always used to lose it in the bottom, kind of lose tightness in the bottom.
Yeah.
Whereas now, as I brought my stance in, that didn't happen at the last comp. Also, I've not tried this out yet, but I was using a false grip on the bar. So for the video users kind of having the thumb over. And if you think about it, it's more likely to want to roll that way. Whereas if you've got your thumb wrapped, you can pull the bar more, kind of pull it down and have more control over it. So that was one of the reasons he was saying that a false grip is not always the best way to go, because you're creating artificial tightness for one, and two, you have less control over the actual barbell. So I want to try that out. I want to see if that's another thing which, keeps it a bit more sturdy, because it does seem to be something which has started happening to me since I started having that false grip. But stance width definitely affected it too. Being too wide kind of makes me, like I said, lose it at the bottom a bit.
You've got quite a narrow stance yourself, Jackson. Have you experimented with different foot placement?
Yeah, I've gone in, out, up and down, and sometimes not up, but
definitely down.
Yeah, for me, I mean, we train quite like, we've talked about this before, but like bodybuilding style, like after squatting.
Yeah.
So, like, I've got me and Jamie and stuff, we've all got quite big quads and quite strong quads. So we get, and then if I go too wide, I'm not going to get the knee travel to get as much out of the wraps. So yeah, the closer in just seems better for me personally. I'd have the same issue with you as you, Alex, if I went out wide, challenge the external rotation of the hips too much. I'd topple forward. It wouldn't work. Yeah. I've done the reverse of what you've done, though. I've actually swapped to a false grip, a suicide grip on the squats. Probably in the last year. I think it was just as we went into lockdown, maybe April or so last year, I swapped just because I was getting so many issues with my biceps and shoulders. So for you, when you swap to the thumb round to a full grip, that might be something that you run into issues with because it challenges the external rotation of the shoulders so much.
I've already got issues with it, so the way I see it, like, it'll be what it'll be.
I figured I wanted to bench more than I wanted to squat more, so I went to the easier shoulder stuff.
Like for me, the past comp prep I did when I was benching, as soon as I got over about 200, it just felt like someone had a vice around my upper arm, and they clamped it on really quickly. Wow. I don't know if everyone else kind of has the same issue, but I guess that was my bicep or my brachialis or something. It's really hard to pinpoint the pain, but yeah, it's quite off-putting, and you don't notice it. Well, you do notice it when you're going up, but yeah, that was even with a false grip when squatting. So I guess.
Oh, you're in for a fucking fun time then.
Yeah, I'll be benching like 190, but my squat will like 5 kilos or something.
Yeah.
Just for the benefit of the listeners, so Alex has got a 337.5 kilo squat in knee wraps, a 310 in bare knees, which we've touched on before. Hopefully, if I do my editing right, 227.5 kilo raw bench, and a tremendous 385 kilo deadlift. For that amazing deadlift there, Alex. It's really impressive. So that was that was at the Andy Bolton challenge, wasn't it, or Tattooed and Strong? I'm just trying to look at
that. Andy Bolton. It was the 101 2019.
Yeah,
that was like competition wise. That was probably my best day that I've had, even though it was a deadlift only. Kind of most memorable, just for winning it when I did not expect to. I wasn't really trying. I was just trying to do my best on the day, really. I just wanted a PB, and then it just so happened that Hicksy, as amazing as he is, he probably took too much of a big jump. I don't think he was going to win. I think he was going to pull 900 pounds. So luckily for me, he didn't make the 900 pound pull.
So that was, you touched on Grant Mix there, right? That was a stacked competition. Eh? Who else was in that competition?
This kind of, good question.
We can probably answer that for you.
Yeah, we're gonna answer that.
If I were to actually tell you the names, like Benny Magnusson was in the flight.
Wow.
It wasn't the same Benny Magnusson. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I beat a 460 pulling Benny Magnusson.
Yeah.
Details. Still Benny Magnusson. Yeah.
There were loads of good guys, and it's so long ago that I can't fully remember. So obviously, there was Ben Badger Brunning as well. He, big strong man. Well, I think he's kind of retired. He's had some back issues over here, but he was big and strong man at the time. I remember a guy called Will Newton who has a big pull in him. I don't know if you guys will know him. It'll come to me. But I did beat some. Like, if on paper, though, there were some names there which I think Andy may have. I don't know whether Andy did this one or whether he was like really deep into his kidney issues and he sat it out. I think he might have done it. Obviously, he had like pretty bad kidney problems at the time.
Yeah. It was a stacked competition. We're talking nearly up to 100 lifters, for that particular. That's huge, wasn't it? Was it over 1 day or 2 days?
1 day, yeah.
1 day. How did they? Was it because it was just deadlift they powered through? Because that's a vast amount of lifters to get through in 1 day. Yeah, and they obviously they have like a men's showdown at the end, and they have like a women's showdown. So it's really good one, really fun competition to do. I must. Single lifts always seem to be. I mean, they are fun, aren't they? Because there's not the breaks in between with the lifts, and nobody wants to see benching. So
I just counted up. There was 15 at least. I just counted at least 15 300 pulls.
Right. Okay.
15,
that sounds
15
about
or
right.
16 over 300 kilo pulls. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that was Alex. That was I'm looking at the division on Open Powerlifting. It says pro. So what does that mean? Pro. I'm assuming professional, but what does that mean?
Good. I think.
Because we're talking BPU, wasn't it? So that's WPC. Is there a pro division in WPC?
I don't think so as such. Like it would be in, for example, pro football or pro golf or whatever, where you get a salary. I think they just had a pro flight whereby they just called the flight a pro flight, where you go in for the overall for the trophy at the end. I've heard that pro in powerlifting, now this isn't something I can confirm, but apparently it means when you start taking PDs.
Oh, is that right?
I've heard that that's what it means. Someone told
me
that,
many pros then.
Yeah.
What about the people that don't do powerlifting?
There's still the bicep curls and
Yeah. What about like half of City Fitness?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. That's good. Oh yeah. The actually this was an interesting discussion about the pro versus like amateur powerlifting that I heard on.
It was on.
I think it was on King of the List podcast. About who gets picked for comps and who gets invited, etc. What's your take on that, Alex? I don't know if you saw it.
I think I may have seen. I didn't see the podcast or listen to the podcast, but I do recall a similar post. Was it something to do with? Can you refresh my memory?
So it's along the lines of basically. Say Federation powerlifting is theoretically amateur powerlifting. So that's like IPF, GPC, BP, WPC, whatever. So all of the acronyms. It's like a fucking government department. But so all of those are basically amateur powerlifting. So they should have some sort of like novice comp, regional comp, national comp, maybe a regional, like a European or an Oceanias or something. And then a world comp, and that's it. And there's definite steps along the way. So there's definite like qualifying totals.
So the IPF are obviously very good at that.
Do it very, very well.
Yeah. You can't just jump into a world. You can't jump into worlds for IPF. You have to.
And it's basically that you have to do those comps along the way. There is qualifying markers along the way that get you into those comps. Whereas then there was the issue of someone for those. So obviously in the States, and it's becoming a thing now. I mean, you guys have like the ABS Pro Series and stuff. we're starting like the Wolfpack comps here, the Invitational, they have Pro Raw and Aussie. In the US, they have a few different ones. You know, they have the Kern, they have the Showdown, they have the Tribute meet, they have Boss of Bosses. They have a few of these like pro meets, and they're run by promoters. So in effect, they don't necessarily have a qualifying total. Like, it's in their best interest to obviously want the best. But their thing was basically, if someone who has a massive following on social media and can bring viewers, the promoter is well within their rights to invite that person, regardless of if they've set a good total or not.
Yeah, so you got like the likes of like Larry Wheels and Steffi Cohen. You know, I don't know when Larry Wheels last competed, but Steffi hasn't competed for a while. She's going into a boxing thing. So, but because she's got 2 million followers on Instagram, she almost gets an instant invitation. And look, there's nothing wrong with that, because obviously as a promoter, you want to fund the event, you know, and you're going to want to bring the viewers in. The sponsor's going to want to see activity and so forth. If you've got Steffi Cohen on the lineup, you're going to get people watching. But she hasn't done anything potentially for the last year or so. So she hasn't in fact qualified. And there's a little bit of contention between those who you know, obviously the promoter side of things and then the competitor side of things, thinking, well, I've worked my ass off for the last 12 months to get, you know, even a decent Wilkes, Dots, whatever, you know, Glossbrenner to get into the competition, but I'm being beaten by someone who's a social media phenomenon.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it should go off social media following. 100% no. Because, for example, I mean, I've got nothing against the guy, but he's not really my thing. Like, I don't find him impressive as such. But what's he called? The guy, Juji Mufu, or whatever he's called, the American guy who does all the flips and the splits with the weights.
Oh wow, I've never heard of it.
Well,
where have you been, Greg?
I don't know. I feel like I'm not au fait with social media as much as you guys are. You couple of millennials. So he's doing fancy stunts, eh? Like,
yeah,
you know, Larry Wheels and stuff. They're doing everything other than lifting and half their videos, where they're doing kind of, you know, gimmicky things.
Well, this Jujimufu guy, he's not a top elite powerlifter, but he was at the Hybrid Showdown the other week. He competed at the Hybrid Showdown, and I don't know whether the Hybrid Showdown was classed as a pro meet anyway. But just to give an example, this guy, I don't think you would, how do I say it? I don't think you would include him in a pro meet. Okay, so him or someone else like him, you wouldn't include him because his total is not that amazing. I mean, he's a decent lifter, but he was there, and I don't think you should include guys like that. But if you've got a historical good total, I think you should have option to compete in these meets. I think it should go off total, but, you know, if you've not been active for, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, I guess it's like my 920 bare knees total. That was done in 2018. So, you know, in theory, like, if it has to be within the last 12 months, which is kind of hard because of COVID and stuff, then I would be disqualified from that. I think it should be almost like, if you follow bodybuilding, once you've earned your pro card, you can literally go and compete in a pro show if you want, no matter how terrible you are, which creates issues of it in of itself. But you earn that pro card at one point, so it's kind of, all right, maybe they should set a limit on it, maybe like 5 years or something. But
you think of when in the IFBB, you've got, once you've earned your pro card, yes, you can do a pro show, but you can't do the Olympia unless you qualify.
Yeah, you must qualify for the Olympia unless you've won the Olympia before.
Yeah, unless of course you've won it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it should be done in an objective way, though. The invite should be sent out in an objective way, and I don't think they should be sent out via, you know, you've seen some gym lifts or something, or this person looks good on social media. Definitely not. But I think that historical totals to a certain extent should be allowed because, you know, people don't always compete every year.
Yeah. I mean, you guys over there have got obviously Andy Bolton. He's got his own competition. I don't think anyone's going to deny Andy from a spot in a pro meet, you know, or a professional powerlifting meet because he's Andy Bolton, you know. Would that be, Yeah, I think as well, I don't think Andy is going to be the type of guy who's going to go out of his way
to go into a meet that he's not ready for. Of course, he's gone in and done his own comp when he's not been deadlifting anywhere near what he normally would. But it was kind of a different comp where all levels were welcome. Anyway, you know what I mean? However, I think, say, for example, like, I don't know, if he were to go back to the WPO like he used to years ago, I know that he wouldn't enter something like that. You know, I mean, I can't speak for him, but I don't picture him entering a full meet in multiply gear like he used to and just be like, yeah, I know that my total's, 300 kilos down or 400 kilos down from what it used to be, because that's just not him. You know what I mean? He's a competitive guy, and I think that he will compete when he will only compete to compete. He's not going to go there at his half best. But I mean, he was telling me that he wanted some over 50s records. So when he throws his hat back into the ring, he'll do so as a competitive guy. I think it is deadlift only that he's going for. But yeah, and like you say, I don't think he wants to compete. He does want to compete, and even though sorry,
it's like inbuilt into him. It's just who he is.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, when he did turn up, when he wasn't quite at his best, it's because he had kidney failure. You know what I mean? So it was like
that can put you off your meat, I'm sure.
Yeah. So he went fully in that, fully in the knowledge that was the case. Everyone else knew that was the case, but it wasn't like a WPO or a Pro Raw, that type of thing. Was the meet where you could go just to have fun type thing. So yeah,
I think as a promoter, you need to be very mindful of that as well, because obviously you're inviting some of these maybe historical, greatest of all time competitors. But at the same time, you also want to be wary, and this is just my opinion, that they are going to perform on the day, because I think back to, Dana Lynn Bailey in her prime was kicking ass on the bodybuilding stage. I think she even had to go at powerlifting for a while as well. But then she went on to that Ninja Warrior obstacle course thing, I don't know if you guys are aware of that, when they have to do all the obstacles and climb through it, do all sorts of things.
I know what you mean. I didn't know she did it.
No, she did it, and she didn't make past the first obstacle. I think she fell in the water, which is, 15-year-old kids have got past that point, and you can imagine the following of people that would have just watched that particular episode and then seen their hero fail. How damaging is it for them and for her as a brand to be completely bomb and on the most simplest of tasks, And so I think as a promoter and also as an athlete or a former great, you've got to at least be prepared to put in a good to average performance or a decent performance.
On that same respect, for that show, how many more viewers did they get?
That's true.
Even though she fucked it up, how many more viewers did they get? How much more did they charge for advertising?
Yeah, so the promoter's probably thinking, yes.
Yeah. This was the thing. Sorry, this was the thing. This was the one. The guy Luke Bright, who is the Showdown meet promoter. So it's not the Hybrid Showdown. It's a different meet called the Showdown. And so it's basically, he doesn't have like a IPF database of where lifters rank. He has open powerlifting and just goes off that. And he invited people or whoever, but he invited some people that people said you shouldn't invite them, or he also missed some people. Which, in fact, actually, and then when they made a big deal of it, and that he actually found out who they were, he invited them. He said, right, all good. Sorry, I missed you, but come. But the thing with this is that this guy's writing a check for $35K without even having a meet together. And then he's getting sponsors. So he's $35K in the hole before he even puts an invite list together. So he wants someone who has you think, okay, so you'll get like X amount of people watching the live stream. So you can offer that to your sponsors and say, right, okay, give me 10 grand or whatever. But then you think how many times the videos are going to get watched on Steffi Cohen's Instagram or on so-and-so's Instagram. it's a lot more exposure that you can offer someone than say like even like me or Alex. I'm not saying we're on the same level as Steffi, but like, you know, if you invited one of us, yeah, cool, you'll get, you know, maybe 1,000 views or whatever. You're not going to get millions of views like you would from Steffi.
Yeah. You actually just made me think there of another scenario in which this has happened in a different sport. Do you remember when CM Punk went into the UFC?
Oh, yeah.
Will that guy ever be taken seriously in wrestling again?
No, never.
It's impossible, isn't it?
But how much money did they make off that pay-per-view?
Oh, I imagine, yeah.
You know, like this is the thing with the difference between going back to the original thing. It's a federation, a non-profit or whatever, versus someone who is running a powerlifting meet. It's their meet. They've put the money up for it personally. They can, I mean, yeah, it's in their best interest to have the best lifters there, but they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Well, that was
really,
the
in my
argument,
opinion.
wasn't it? It's his fucking comp. Let
It's
him
his comp.
invite.
If he wants to invite someone who's totaling fucking 200, weighing 100, let him. Fuck it.
Yeah.
It'll look funny.
Like you say, Jackson. I mean, if he's 35k in the hole to start off with, he's got to get that money back. He has no choice. So let him do what he wants to do. You know, if he doesn't want to base it purely off meritocracy, I guess it's his prerogative, and they're not governed. These individual meets, I guess the idea is they're not really governed by anyone as such, so they can do whatever they want in a way.
That raises a good point for me, Alex, because I know in a previous podcast you've mentioned that you've got, because you're 30 now, aren't you? 30?
31, unfortunately.
Oh, 31. Okay, you've only got 9 years then. So I know you've said that you want to reach your all-time best by 40. You know, even though powerlifters, give or take, have been going through the 40s, through to their at least late 40s. At least I don't know when the limit is. I guess it depends on the powerlifter. But you've still got plenty to go. Like, at what point? The question is, at what point will you say, okay, enough's enough? I'm going to stop competing because I've started going backwards, or will you keep going?
I think if it's really apparent that I start going backwards, I mean, this feels like it's happened to me, not for good, but already at some points, you know. When my knees started to get bad, I think like my raw squat went backwards, and when they started to get really bad, I mean. But in things like the bench, I've not hit that 227.5 again. I've only hit 225 since 2018. I had that really good meet, and then I feel I've been struggling to regain that same form since then. I love competing in powerlifting, and I don't know, I guess maybe, you know, maturity since when I said the whole 40 years old thing might have made me think this, but I'd go beyond 40 if I feel healthy, or if I am healthy and can continue to progress. Do I feel like I will continue to progress past 40? I think, you know, realistically, I started weight training very young. I started weight training when I was 15. I started taking steroids quite young, you know, when I was going up to 17, way too young. I've cycled on and off since a lot. Like I've cycled off a lot to try to kind of repair the quote unquote damage that I did young. But I think with types of guys like me, I think you're probably going to peak before 40, and I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love to, you know, be a late bloomer and total 1,000 raw, you know, bare knees or sleeves, you know, before then, and then continue to go up and up and up. But it's just more of a guess, really, that 40 might be the time when I start to peter out and have to, you know, I think it'd be tough to keep going back for me, because I'm quite competitive against myself. Maybe Masters Powerlifting, then it'll be massive, you know what I mean? And maybe there will be something to aim for. And maybe I'll do it at 110 rather than 125, like a super lean version of myself, so I can be healthier. But yeah, I think I'll take it as it comes. But if there's an opportunity to do something which isn't be 100% dedicated to competing in powerlifting all day and maybe transfer that to business when I'm past my peak, there's a good chance that I'll take it, you know?
Let's
But who knows?
What about you, Jackson? I mean, you're still on the up and up, according to your Instagram, but
Who said that?
are you so if you actually, for both of you, you hit 1,000 kilo total. That's a decent total by any stretch of the imagination.
Thanks, Greg.
It doesn't tend to get as much hype as maybe 1,100.
2,600 pounds.
20. Well, it does, and it doesn't. 1,000 kilos as well. That's like the benchmark for a super elite professional, whatever you want to call it, whatever terminology. It's the best of the best. But is there much point in getting 1050, for example? You're just kind of going for a small change. Will you carry on, Jackson? Will you keep striving to be the best and the best of the best for as long as you can?
To be fair, when I'm strong enough to total 1,000, I'm going to go for 1,002.5 because it jumps you like 40 places up the fucking list because there's so many people that have done 1,000 on the dot.
That's true.
And I've fucked up. Honestly, mate, I don't know. It's one of those things, like.
It's almost like the law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
So the higher you go, the more stress you're going to put on yourself and your body, and what you.
Yeah. Well, I had this conversation with a few clients in the gym recently, as they've started to get to like higher levels of competing, and I'm like, well, you got to decide where you drawing the line, So like you can do. This is the thing with powerlifting. You can do powerlifting as casually as you want. You can train twice a week. And compete in powerlifting. It doesn't matter. You can train twice a week, go out 4 nights a week, and like not stretch, not give a shit what you eat, and you can still compete in powerlifting. Sure, you're going to total like 400, weighing like 120 as a dude or whatever, but like you can still do it, and you can try and improve in that bracket almost, so you can probably try and get your total up and up and up or whatever. But there's points where you have to be like, right, okay, if I want to get to the next level, I've got to make like this sacrifice. So I've got to train more often. I've got to train 4 times a week, say. Or I've got to make this sacrifice. I've got to stop going out and getting fucking lathered like 4 nights a week. Or I've got to start watching what I eat, start paying attention to my protein. Or I've got to get a coach. Or I've got to start training at a proper gym. There's like, there is those definite levels. And so for me, it's then, when do I then pick, okay, when are all these sacrifices not worth it? That's the, where do you draw the line? And that's different for everyone. I mean, I'm quite a competitive person. I fucking love it. And so I've taken a step back from competing this year, that's one of the hard, I've been competing every year in powerlifting for the last 11 years. So that's quite a hard decision to make. But would I go back? I'm still training the same. I'm still trying to improve, so it's one of those things. Where do you draw the line? I don't know. I don't know what else becomes a priority. Like Alexander says, does the business become a priority? Does your family become a priority? Do you, like,
can you do it all? I mean, you've got so much going on in the powerlifting world right now. You want to be the best editor in chief. You want to be the best podcaster, best lifter, best father. You got a young son as well. Are there enough hours in the day? Do you have enough energy to be the best at all those?
I feel like there are definitely enough hours in the day. I do this British Strength magazine stuff, British Strength Radio, alongside online coaching. I do some in-person coaching, of course, not during lockdown because I wouldn't flout the lockdown regulations, of course. But there's enough time. There's enough time in the day to do it all. I actually think that I could have more time. But like you just mentioned there, my son is a number one priority, and I wouldn't go trying to fill the extra time with stuff and be one of these super, super, super busy dads who never sees his kid. So that's a big one. There's always going to be time for him, no matter what. There's definitely enough time in the day. Yeah, I can't make that excuse because I honestly feel like I probably could. I know I actually could do this with a full-time job as well, because I used to do the online coach in British Strength magazine. Fair enough, I don't think I had the podcast then, but I used to do site security as well. So I used to work 48 hours a week on that, sometimes more when they needed it. And fair enough, I could work on the magazine in the cabins that they had me stationed in, and I did as much as I possibly could. But yeah, time is not the issue for me. It's being organized. I'm just terribly organized. I'll be quite honest. I really am. So if I put more effort in, it's doable.
But notoriously late, your own words.
Yeah. I don't think I was that late today, was I?
No, you're fine.
Today?
I find today.
Was I okay?
No, you're like 2 minutes late. But I said to Jackson, he's
late for his own podcast.
He's often late
in my own house.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to be anywhere.
You guys aren't even allowed to go anywhere, and you're still late.
Nice, because you by your own admission, you're often late to things. It seemed it was a bit of a running joke in that last episode I listened to you with, your own episode. So that's fantastic.
With Tan, yeah, because she had
Tan,
to put up with it for me working for her for 10 years.
Excellent.
That was why it was so funny, because I was always pissing her off.
Yeah. Let's take the podcast back a bit, because I want to talk about you as a person and your history. And I know you were quite a competitive bodybuilder for a while. So let's talk about how you got into bodybuilding and why. And I need to really ask you the question: why is Vin Diesel a model for young boys? I don't know if it's maybe the age group, but Vin Diesel. What's the story there? Because I don't take him as a big burly, muscular bloke. Because I grew up in. I'm 43 now, so back in my day it was Commando, Predator, it was Arnold, Terminator, and Arnold is leaps and bounds above Vin Diesel. So take
but the thing with that is, how many bitches did he get?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Vin
exactly.
Diesel drove fast cars, had all the girls. Like that's the guy.
That wouldn't get me into the gym. That would probably get me into cars. I don't know.
I think so. Obviously, would you like me to tell kind of the full story? Like,
yeah, go for the full
my
story.
Episode.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so, when you're 13 years old, you're just kind of hanging out at weekend. Town I'm from originally is called Manchester, the city, I guess. And we would just hang around the centre of Manchester, and we would go to the cinema every now and again. And I was hanging around with a bunch of girls, always a bunch of girls in the cinema, all sat by me, and we're watching the Vin Diesel movie Triple X.
There you go.
I absolutely loved it. It was, it was a great movie at the time, for a 13-year-old kid, an action flick. It was just, It had everything you needed. So I'm sat there, and there's a scene where he's with this Eastern European woman, and they're getting intimate, and he takes his top off, and she's extremely pleased with his aesthetic appearance, I guess. And to me, then he looked huge because I had no concept. I can't remember what, I'll be quite honest, but I guess I saw a very rugged physique in front of me, a very masculine physique. And the girls next to me, they gasped. Okay, so at this age, obviously, all this testosterone's flooding your system. You are dying to have sex with a woman. That's all you want to do at that age, and that's all I wanted to do. And I just kind of thought, if I go to the gym, I will one day be able to have sex with a female. So
Vin Diesel equals sex with a woman, so that means going to the gym means sex with a woman. Fantastic.
Yeah, and it was advertised to me on the screen as well. Like, he takes his top off, she's happy. I was thinking, right, okay, I found the secret. So
that's the secret.
I was at that gym. It was called Blakely Health Studio at the time, which is a little suburb of Manchester. And it was a martial arts place actually, which I went to when I was a kid. But then on the top floor in the attic, or the attic, was a gym. And it was just a very basic gym. It was there, and I got shown the ropes. And I was there before it opened the next day. I was that enthusiastic to go. So yeah, and I just did a little bit then, but I didn't quite get the hang of it. I also had friends who, you know, when you're 13, you'll believe anything your friends tell you, especially the popular ones, who said weight training stunts your growth. I think I was maybe like 5'6" at the time. I'm 5'11" now, so I hadn't reached my full height. I was like, oh Jesus, I you know, there's nothing wrong with being 5'6". Anyone who's 5'6", that's fine.
Jackson, you're at
I wanted. You what?
Jackson's 5'6", so.
No, I'm 5'11". You're the short one here, Greg. Don't try, just because people can't see the video, don't try and throw me under the bus.
5'6.5", thank you.
So I wanted to, you know, I wanted to be taller, so I thought, I don't want to do that. I don't want to stunt my growth with weight training. Anyway, probably about a year later, I just started doing a little bit again. And then when I was 15, I wanted to start powerlifting, oddly, because I was watching a UFC fight just when it was, whenever it was televised, just kind of like when you're a kid, whatever you do. And I was trying to like understand it. I had no idea, but it was more the physiques. And like I saw Ken Shamrock, he was jacked. And, you know, they were talking about how much Tank Abbott bench pressed. They were like, oh, Tank Abbott can bench press 600 pounds. I don't know whether he actually could bench press 600 pounds, but whatever.
Gym lift.
And I just kept, what? Sorry?
Make one of those gym lifts. I've done 600 pounds in the gym. There's no one else, but I did it.
Yeah, it's all you, bro.
Yeah. It's all you.
Yeah. Yeah, his spot, I did 300 of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was just kind of like impressed by the, you know, the performance aspects that they were talking about, and the physique as well. Obviously not Tank Abbott's physique, more Ken Shamrock's. But it kind of, they mentioned powerlifting somewhere along the way, so I was like, right, I want to be a powerlifter. I went to Waterstones, which is a bookstore in the UK. I don't know where we have it in New Zealand.
No, we haven't got it here, but I remember it.
What's a bookstore?
Yeah, so I went there the next day, and that's what I did at those times. I didn't really look it up on the internet. I tried to get a book on it, looked for books on powerlifting, couldn't find one, but I found Arnold Schwarzenegger's Education of a Bodybuilder. So not the big one, not the encyclopedia, the little one that he brought out in the 70s or 80s.
Which you wrote stuff.
Yeah. And I read the whole thing in like 2 evenings after school. And then I remember saying to myself at the time, I said, I want to be one of the best in the world at this, because I couldn't really wrap my head around like the bigger guys like Ronnie Coleman at the time at that point, because they were just too big and freaky looking. And even though I said I want to be one of the best in the world, that doesn't really make sense. But I was like, I want to be, you know, like Arnold and like those guys, and kind of create my own version of what I wanted. And then I did end up becoming inspired by, you know, Ronnie and Jay and people when it became more like achievable to me, when I'd seen more of it, because at the time it was kind of like I couldn't wrap my head around it, whereas Arnold and Franco and people like that were more appealing. So yeah, I just became obsessed with bodybuilding. I just got into the gym, and for some reason it just clicked, and I instantly became obsessed with it. And I never ever took a break from it since then. I was 15 years old, competed in my first competition probably 18-ish months after I started training. My first competition was one called the Pendle Valley show. So Pendle Valley is a suburb, well, not even a suburb, I don't know if you'd call it a suburb. It's a little town in Lancashire, like a country town. And the other guy who competed there, I don't know if either of you were aware of IFBB pro Nathan DeAsha.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the junior class, it was me and him, and a few other guys. So there were 6 in the class. I was third. Some other guy was second. I think he was called Aiden. Yeah, Aiden was second. I don't know whether he still competes. Very, very, very good condition. Not loads of size, but of course Nathan was first and was third.
Wow. Shout out to Nathan DeAsha if he's listening.
Yeah, hopefully he will. I think he's probably.
Well, is he in prison?
I don't think
he's been put away, isn't he? Is he? He's been flouting the lockdown laws, hasn't he? I see his social post.
I don't know whether he's been locked up now. Has he been locked up?
I don't know. I vaguely follow his socials, and I know he's been definitely a critic of your lockdown measures. Yeah, like
so
quite a vocal one.
He got arrested because he was keeping people in his gym, not keeping them in, but someone said that they'd rang the police and they said they'd been kidnapped. But basically, he was letting people in the gym.
He locked him in the gym.
He did, but he kind of had to in a way, because when the police came over to the gym, they had to kind of lock them in a unit so that the police could not then find people in the gym training. So they chose to come into the gym. But then when they were trying to escape from the back, the police were just already there, and they were hitting people with the baton and stuff like that. They were really treating people quite harshly, and of course, Nathan got a pretty bad deal with the police. Like, you can see it on camera. I'm not even just being one of these anti-lockdown, anti-vaxxers, COVID denier types. Nathan got treated very badly by the police. He was already handcuffed. He had, 10 officers around him. An officer kneed him in the ribs or the solar plexus when he was completely, he'd already been pepper sprayed. And then that put him down, or they dragged him down. And then someone came in from the back and put a knee in while he was on the floor. Wow. Completely unnecessary use of force. And it was all caught on camera.
I was just going to say it was caught on camera, obviously, yeah. As
soon as the police officer sees the camera, he points to the other police officers, and they sent all male police force, no females, to deal with this.
Wow.
And these are the people who were hitting females or swiping at females with batons.
Wow.
All male cop force. So
I didn't think that sort of happened in the UK. I mean, obviously you see the headlines in the US, and it almost seems like it's a weekly, monthly event. But the UK, I didn't realize that was it could get that bad.
Certain things have happened, and I think it seems worse than it is sometimes, because it's always captured on someone's camera phone.
That's the thing now.
So yeah, when one person captures, you kind of feel like it happens in every city, and every town. But you've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things on Facebook, like, for example, someone tried to have a couple of friends over for their 1-year-old's birthday party. The 1-year-old's birthday party. It's never going to happen again. And the police came around for that, and it is pretty excessive the way they're enforcing it. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be certain elements of lockdown implemented, and I guess this is me getting onto my opinion of things which I don't really understand. But I mean, there have been a lot of things which have seemed unnecessary and that could have been dealt with in different ways. I don't think people's health, the health of the nation, has been prioritized when it's one of the best ways that you can actually fight off COVID. Being a healthy person, fight off COVID. And there's, from what I've seen, there's been no government initiative like, get out there, exercise, make yourself a fitter, healthier, more resilient person. It's just,
it's all ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. Really.
Yeah, exactly.
People, there's no doubt there is a lot of ill and sick people out there, but and not to diminish their suffering, but a lot of it has been, I wouldn't say, I don't want to say self-inflicted, but lifestyle would definitely come into it. And as you say, there are. I mean, my wife's in her second to last year been studying naturopathy to be a naturopath. She's a strong opponent of basically just lifestyle, clean eating, stress reduction, reducing the toxins wherever you can, and building up that immunity, and I was, without going, this is a polarizing topic for many, I know, but there was a French nun the other day, 117, she recovered from COVID, and I can imagine she probably leads 117. you know, and I can imagine she probably leads quite a healthy lifestyle. I mean, obviously there are different degrees of COVID. My wife's English, they all live in London. Half the younger ones anyway, under 30, have had COVID and recovered. But there is like one of my nephews has got what they call long COVID. So the symptoms persist. Whereas, you know, others have had maybe headache type symptoms for 3 days and recovered. So obviously it does affect people in different ways. We've just we've been lockdown free for months and months and months. We had one a week or two ago that lasted a few days. And then as of midnight last night, we've gone into another 7-day lockdown, you know, and people are frustrated, you know, and you do get that sentiment that why can't they just lock down that portion of the city where the outbreak occurred? You know, why do the rest of us have to suffer because somebody just couldn't quarantine themselves after getting a COVID test and then go into the gym? You know, someone got a COVID test, suspected COVID, and they went to the bloody gym, you know, and so they're locking down the whole city now. So there's definitely a level of frustration, and you can't get upset at people like Nathan DeAsha who are just trying to protect their business, their lifestyle, their livelihood. Yeah. You know, I talked to Lee Marshall several times during the last few months, and you know, his gym's suffering. He's suffering. We talked to Dave Beatty, didn't we, Jackson? You know, they're struggling. They're getting by, but they're struggling. You know, Australia with Marcos, you know, the gym's been shut for 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, if you're lucky and you're clever and you're entrepreneurial and you can lend out the equipment, you can get by. But, you know, a lot of people can't. You know, in the first lockdown, we lost 2 to 3 powerlifting gyms in our country, which is nearly a third of the total number of powerlifting gyms in the country. So, you know, the sport was just kind of getting into things and specialist gyms were opening, and then, boom, they just couldn't survive because they were always going to be on a shoestring project anyway, being powerlifting niche.
Yeah, I think to an extent, I know this sounds like a very passive way to look at it. I'll just be kind of glad if the whole vaccination program does mean a return to normal. Because I've always found that with me, getting into politics just brings me down. Like getting into political issues, but things like this, because it does affect our lives so much, it's affected my friends' lives so much. It's difficult not to get a little bit frustrated, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And this is the first thing that really has, like, there's been no other political issues throughout my lifetime where I've felt strongly, honestly. I just like to control what I can, you know. But when it's your friends who are being arrested for trying to open a gym, like, or keep a gym open, it's so, we never envisioned this, did we? You know?
No, exactly.
Yeah. It is a hard one because, like you say, you know, the people are usually like, just vote for whoever, because what they talk about and what they decide never affects your day-to-day life anyway. Because they're always talking about like foreign budgets and whatever, and it's like you just go about your day. Strength coaching, I go about same thing. Greg goes to work, comes home, like whatever. We all just go about our day-to-day lives. What they sit there and talk about usually doesn't do anything to us. This is like one of those political issues that come up every sort of, you know, 10 years or 15, whatever, and it's actually impacted literally everyone.
Yeah.
To a massive degree.
Yeah. I think one of the things that can happen as well, though, is people who it basically doesn't affect at all, people who are on 80% furlough, which is what in this country where they get 80% of their wages paid for staying home, or I think it might be 60%, I'm not sure. They're all very kind of pro-lockdown, pro-close of businesses. And it's like, yeah, that's because you're taken care of.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you been compensated or looked after, Alex, with your business?
I've not. I didn't even seek it. I just kind of thought to myself, well, just do as well as I can with the online coaching, push British Strength Magazine more, just try to drum up subscriptions, try like one or two other avenues. I must admit, like, you know, without going into my personal financial situation, but it is, you know, it's not going great at all. But at the same time, like, the compensation side of things, I can still work, you know, online. So I don't see how I would be eligible for it. So I didn't even think about it, to be honest. I just thought this might be an opportunity for me to push things on, push things forward. And hopefully we'll be getting to a point where like more people are starting to train and stuff as well soon. So gyms will be open. So, you know, I will have made it out of the tough end of it and, you know, start drumming things up again, you know, maybe get 1 or 2 more things in the pipeline, which I'm thinking about too. One or 2 other kind of sub avenues.
So let's change topics a bit and just get back into the powerlifting. So, you've just touched on it. You're making your living out of powerlifting from where to go. You must love the sport, yeah?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely love it. I think when I got into powerlifting, it was basically during an off season from building. I'd competed for, let's see, 16 to 22, so that's 6 years. And I was having a long off season. I was 24 years old, I think, and I just tried a powerlifting competition as part of like a new style of training I was doing because I'd never trained really heavy. It was all about, you know, contracting muscle and feeling the squeeze and all this stuff. And I kind of thought to myself, I'll try it. And Tanya George, who you heard interview me, was actually my first coach. You know, she didn't coach me for a long period of time, but she gave me some sessions and it really got me started and it got me to know the rules and, you know, what a powerlifting squat is versus the combination that the bodybuilders do.
How was that transition? I mean, you were going from bodybuilding to powerlifting. Did you find the transition easy or hard? Were you training in a strength style anyway with your bodybuilding, or were you bodybuilding with machines and doing rep sets of 20?
I think with bodybuilding, I probably used too many machines, relied on too many machines, because I was all about the contraction and trying to kind of hit the muscle as precisely as possible. And I think I probably neglected the fact that if you just get stronger, you'll grow. Obviously, training with the barbell is probably the best, and dumbbells even maybe was the best way to get stronger, free weights. So I think the transition of, for me, the technical side of things, getting things technically right, was okay-ish. I look back at some old videos of me sumoing, and it was actually quite terrible. You know, the hips would rise way, way, way first, so I couldn't, you know, find my sweet spot. So it took me a bit to actually really get my technique down. I did some ridiculous things. I think you do in a way, because if you're the type of person who tries everything, you have to do some things which don't work along the way. But I think the biggest thing was I could not let the little isolation movements go. I actually looked at my prep for the first Euros I did, 2014, and it was like 10 days out was, you know, bench press and delts and traps and triceps. And it's like, yeah, like you don't need to do that.
No.
I just couldn't let those look, because I thought that the muscles would shrink or that I would look different, because I hadn't fully let go of bodybuilding at that point. I still thought I might compete again, which, you know, obviously after a bit I kind of figured out that I love powerlifting too much. So it wasn't necessarily that I quit bodybuilding. I actually just massively fell in love with powerlifting. So as an answer to your question about it, yeah, I do. And I just became obsessed with this instead.
It's interesting that mentality around wanting to build all the muscles. You know, when you come from a bodybuilding workout style to a powerlifting workout style, there's that fear that if you're just doing squat, deadlift, and bench, you're not going to look as jacked and as muscular as you did when you were bodybuilding. You know, when you look at some of the maybe older powerlifters now, maybe this is pre like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years past, they weren't the prettiest of physiques. And so there was an association with powerlifting was with kind of just big chunky fat men, wasn't it? Yeah. Whereas probably more around the time that 2014, 2013, you've got people like Dan Green, Stan Efferdine, and so forth, that are just challenging that image, aren't they? They're saying, well, you can look like a bodybuilder and lift like a powerlifter. And I think that's probably where the resurgence in the sport, interest in the sport, kind of just peaked. And of course, people weren't covered in, you know, multiply gear either towards the end of 2013, 2014.
Yeah, I think the raw stuff, which is something I wrote about in my most recent, as of tomorrow, it'll be my second most recent editorial, is you know, what kind of spurred me on, I think before then I had no, I couldn't really add context to powerlifting because the guys multiply gear and stuff, which is what I would see in the gym when I would see powerlifters. I couldn't relate to it because as a bodybuilder, you go in with nothing on, you know, with just your clothes on, and you start training, you know?
Sometimes not even that.
Yeah. Yeah. You got your little thong on. Yeah.
Redefining raw.
Proper raw.
So it just, I couldn't relate to it. So it was kind of like, in my head, I was like, why do you have to wear this? I just couldn't do it without. And then when it became apparent that you could, that raw powerlifting came along, and I guess a generalization, but raw guys do seem to be more jacked than equipped guys for whatever reason, because a lot of equipped guys do a lot of the work raw. But it just, yeah, that's what opened it up to me a lot more. I don't think I would have been so enthusiastic to start powerlifting if it were equipped only, like it was back, you know, say 2010, 2012.
Do you think it's a misnomer that, and I made the statement before that, you know, we've got that perception of powerlifting before 2010 as being, you know, a bunch of, you know, overweight people. But you look at old pictures of Ed Cohen, and we've had lifters on that have been lifting in the 80s, and they were jacked. They were muscular as, but they just, for one reason or another, they weren't prominent in our minds or, you know, what we saw in front of us when we thought of powerlifting.
I think I was probably a bit naive to it because I didn't know who many powerlifters were. Of course, I knew of Andy Bolton, but that was mainly because he had, you know, sponsorship through what was Dorian Yates approved supplements and then CMP supplements. So you knew of him that way. Powerlifting wasn't promoted very well at all, especially in the UK. I mean, it did go through a stage where it got televised a couple of times, but as a bodybuilder, I didn't really learn too much about powerlifting. Strongman was also maybe one of the reasons, because there are a lot of big, hefty guys who do strongman. So maybe that's part of the perception that we gained.
Yeah,
you know, about big fat guys.
Or maybe it's those around us. I mean, I think of the powerlifters around me at the time when I was doing the bodybuilding, and they weren't the most, I mean, they were strong as fuck and obviously jacked, but they were, many of them were overweight. I don't know. Well, Jackson, what about you? When you first was introduced to powerlifting, what did you see? Did you see muscular looking men and women, or did you see average bods overweight?
Yeah, I was just thinking as we're talking about it, and it is an interesting one. I feel like the perception of powerlifters and stuff has probably changed because of social media. I mean, because obviously people are going to look, if there's someone who's squatting 800 pounds and he's fucking jacked, he's shredded, he's 10%, he's, you know, or there's some guy who's squatting 850, but he looks like shit, I'm going to follow the guy that's squatting 800.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People are going to look at that guy and be like, that's powerlifting. That's sick. And then, you know, so that's probably where that comes into it, I guess, because the public's perception of powerlifting has changed because they've seen that you can be kind of jacked, be like, in good shape and still be strong as.
Because we talk about Dan Green being the start of it, but you know, you look at old pictures of Ed Cohen, and he was muscular, he was lean.
Yeah, but he was a very, very big exception. To be fair,
what Jackson said there. I feel like that's how I kind of imagine it or see it. Back in the day, being really jacked and having a genuine like bodybuilding worthy physique was probably the exception rather than the rule. Whereas now, like, you could line up, you know, 10 of them at any pro meet and you'd be like, wow, they all look.
Oh, dude, like when I've been to Pro Raw and stuff, you know, Marcos is known to do like a, at the end, you know, you're all standing with your trophies, and you've all got a t-shirt on, and then everyone does a tops off photo as well. And like, I usually feel pretty good about myself, you know, and then I look around and I'm like, What's going on there? I'm like looking. I'm like, shit, I'm supposed to look at the camera.
Yeah.
But and also I think also like one of those things with back in the day, like you say, when you guys got first, and it was the same because I got introduced to powerlifting in 2011. That was my first comp, so sort of end of 2010 was when I got introduced to powerlifting, and it was purely equipped. There was no recognition for raw, and it sort of you were relying. There was the balance between, okay, well, I want to be in my weight class and I want to be strong, but also I need to maximize the gear. Whereas now, maximizing the gear is, are my hips strong enough? Are my quads strong enough? Are my delts strong enough? You know, like back in the day, you could afford to have like kind of shit shoulders because when you're benching, the shirts, if your back's strong enough and you can touch your chest with the shirt, you can afford to have kind of shitty shoulders because the bar's going to be pretty stable with how much tension's in that shirt. Now, you can't, as a raw bencher, you can't afford to have shit shoulders. You know, same within a squat suit. You can kind of afford to have like lagging quads or like kind of shitty hip stability. You can't really because you need to be able to maintain this, but you know what I mean? You can afford to not have quite as much muscle, whereas you can't afford to do that now. I think that's also probably one of the big shifts.
Yeah, I think the jack guys who, I mean, even the ones in the gym that I was in who I knew of, there was a jack guy who I knew of, but he was small. He was very small. You know what I mean? And like you say, I think it's a different requirement for raw lifting. Like your suit is your muscle. That's essentially your armor. And I mean, there's knee wraps, I suppose, for which you probably need quite a strong back because in order to stabilize what you can squat with wraps on, they're artificial and making you quite stronger, so it's going to overload your back quite a lot. But I think that's really the only case in which you need to create that kind of imbalance with the muscles in a way.
Yeah, well, and I mean, with wraps, the difference with wraps isn't as drastic as like with a squat suit. So you can effectively sort of almost just change your squat position. You know, like I know for me, when I squat in sleeves, I bend over a lot more. I'm a lot more like tilted forward because it's much more of a hip dominant squat. Whereas when I'm in wraps, I try and stay more upright. That's probably where my stance is a wee bit narrower as well. And the weakest, so when you effectively put wraps on, your weakest joint goes from being your knee. Your weakest joint is then your hips, which for most people, your hips, I mean, if you've trained half decently, your hips are pretty fucking strong, you know? And so you go for more knee flexion and less hip flexion. So you can sort of change your position enough to counteract that, if that makes sense. Whereas with a squat suit, like, you know, people are adding like 200 pounds, like they're in like 100 kilos to their squat. Like you can't just change your position to make up for that.
No, and that's why they say that equip lifting is more technical, don't they?
Yeah, 100%, man.
If they get out of line, they're not grabbing that back.
No,
it's gone.
You can't. You're not grinding that. Like, you know, I can get out of position on it. My back's like quite strong, so I can get out of position on a squat, maybe like when it's lighter, and sort of grind it out. But on a you chuck a squat suit on, and there's so much more tension as well. Like you're fighting the suit as well as the bar now versus just you and the bar.
If you're benching in a bench shirt and you're a millimeter either way, it's out of alignment. It's just game over. You can't recover. It's impossible to recover that bar when it's not in the right place. You know, and you're at the mercy of the spotters to rescue you from certain death if that bar was to drop.
And I just also like to add as well, like I'm a lifter because that's kind of what I came up in terms of powerlifting, and that's what appealed to me, made it way more accessible. I don't say that I prefer raw lifting to hate on equip lifting. I understand that there was a long era of the sport, which, you know, contained equip lifting as the primary, like, you know, if you competed raw, you know, then you didn't really know what you were doing at that time. Like, it just wasn't a thing. You were more of you were the outcast then. So, you know, I don't have any animosity towards equip lifting. I just think, like, in this day and age, just raw is just so much more appealing, and it seems to be going so many more places. There are so many more people to compete against, and it's so much easier to get people into the sport when it's raw. But as British Strength Magazine, I will still share equip lifters. You know, an equip lifter who wants to write a good series for the magazine, as Steve Mcneil did, I'll totally welcome that. You know what I mean? Because people will still get into equipped. I just think that you're gonna see this difference, this gulf between raw and equipped grow and grow and grow over time, because raw is the one that people are coming in, and that's the one that they're trying.
And they can see it.
Equipped.
When you see it on social media, you know, you get these guys, and it looks nice. You know, like, you can do it. I can go down to the gym and do that. Whereas multiply, you see, you know, you have to have a mono, and you have to have 3 meter reps, and you have to have this suit that's like squeezing the living shit out of you, and you have to have 6 spotters. People are just like, that's too much effort. That's too much admin. I don't have the time for that. You know.
Yeah.
They're not into it. Steve Mcneil, he's benched something ridiculous, hasn't he? Late threes.
Yeah, I think it's maybe, I might be butchering this, but like 385-ish.
That's fucked.
Maybe 400.
That's fucked.
Benching.
It's him and Calla, Yolatalo James were having like this bit of a battle between them of who benched the most raw in the UK. And they were both near 4, and like, I probably should know this, but I don't know who ended up being, you know, the victor between the two, or whether the battle's still ongoing, you know?
It's crazy.
Everyone loves a battle, eh? There's a battle going on between, is it Delroy and is it Andy? Is it Andy himself? I can't remember.
I thought you were about to say Delroy and Jackson, then I was going to be like, come on, Greg.
That battle's been won. But we had Delroy McQueen on the other day, and I'm sure he was, there's still a deadlift challenge yet to go, isn't there? They're both battling for 400.
Yeah. Is this, sorry, Andy, Del and Andy Bolton?
Yeah, is it Andy Bolton and Delroy? I saw some banter going between on YouTube.
Yeah, I think.
Shit talking now. It's fantastic.
They were very, very close. I've not seen anything recently, honestly, but they were very close. I think it was the first deadlift challenge, and it might have been the second, and Tattooed and Strong around that kind of 2017, 2018 time, when, you know, it was kind of neck and neck.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on now, whether that banter's still going on, but I'd love to see it, you know.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Who's your nemesis? Do you have is it Sam Bollins? I mean, Hicksy?
Honestly, you know, I wish Hicksy were my nemesis. He's totaled 1100. I wish I could say that. I can't. Honestly, myself, I'm my own nemesis. It sounds like, again, it sounds very passive if I say, oh, you know, your own competition and you shouldn't worry about other people. It kind of sounds like you're making an excuse for getting beat. But for me, I've always done better when I've just gone, hey, I'm focused on these numbers. I'm not focused on trying to win this competition, because I am quite a competitive person by nature, and it just throws me off. Like, I don't need to think about anyone else. Like, I need to focus on me getting PBs and just moving forward, because I see myself as fairly genetically good. And if I can just keep moving forward over a long enough course of time, and, you know, even for people who are more genetically blessed to maybe drop out of the sport, that's something I learned from Paul George when he was doing his IFBB pro career. He said that he wasn't better than a lot of the people in his time. He just waited for them to quit.
Yeah.
He literally stuck around long enough for them to quit so he could win. He was very good, but, you know, he just waited for a time when he could win. And that might be what I have to do. Like, if you talk about closest rivals, you know, if you were to make a rivalry, the best guys in the UK on open powerlifting ahead of me at the moment.
Yeah, look that up, actually.
Dan Stewart is very close to me. Is like, I think he did
970 or something, didn't he?
972.5, Dan Stewart. Yeah. You're.
I have a feeling that yeah.
This is all federations, yeah. And
yeah, sorry. I think he did that. Yeah, he did. No, he did 110s. So he's even better than that. I was looking at my I was looking at the 125 table. But in the 125 class, like a minute, there's Sam, Reese forward, who's very good, and Dan. Now, I don't know whether you saw, but Sam has just stepped away from the sport for now anyway.
Oh, he has,
Sam has formally announced that he's not gonna compete anymore.
Wow.
Whether he goes back on that decision, I don't know. Sam doesn't seem like someone who would announce that and then
and
6 months later, I was only joking, I was just having a bad day type of thing. But Reese forward, for me, he's probably the guy in the 125s in the UK now, who's everyone's eyes probably should be in terms of having the most potential to do the most in the next few years. And I'm including myself in that, even though our totals on paper are only 25 kilos away from each other.
Yeah.
He's only done one meet. He's very young in terms of training age. And he's got a lot of potential. But aside from the fact that I focus on me, I think him and Dan Stewart are the only two the two active ones who are ahead of me. And then Sam is obviously fantastic lifter, but he's not competing anymore, so he says.
It's always interesting when a lifter bows out of the sport, effectively in their prime. But you can imagine, life can get in the way, health and so forth, and we have to prioritize our health. It does take a toll, doesn't it? And I know you've mentioned that before about, and you mentioned it earlier on the podcast about, hitting the PEDs quite early, and then, I guess realizing the error of your ways and wanting longevity as well.
Yeah. I think by default, you kind of, you throw away a bit of your longevity by getting into the sport, by being on the tested side. And I think, unless you're completely reckless and you don't enjoy life, I think, you're trying to walk that fine line. I think that's what most of us are trying to do. And to maximize our health and be as efficient as possible with our training, and minimize the risks. I think that's possible to do. I think, the lazy way is to just take more PEDs, pile in more junk food, do bugger all cardio. Do you know what I mean? I think some people class themselves as being more dedicated doing it that way, but to prioritize your training and to actually be healthy, probably a better body composition as well. That's another. It might take a bit longer because it takes more hard work too, but I think that's what the best do,
Yeah, that's like you say, like those people that they come in, flash in the pan, they're out of the sport in 2 years. You just keep trucking on, keep carrying on. That's I found that as well. Like I've been powerlifting for 11 years, 10 years now. I've seen more people come and go, it's ludicrous. And like when I first turned up, I got last, probably, I can't remember, but I would have, I totaled 500 and I was like 90 kilos and I thought I was the man, but like, you get last and you just keep going. And people look at me now and they're like, oh, you've always been a big guy, eh? You've always been real strong. And I'm like, no, it takes a bit of time, and then you get people who are pissed off they haven't got a PB and like, or that, their small PB, the slow progress. And I'm like, come and talk to me in 10 years time when you're still doing this. And then you figure out how long it takes to get a fucking PB.
Yeah. I actually saw Andrei Milanichev just posted. I just shared it on my story. He put a post up. It was a certificate from his first competition. And he said, I competed 82.5 kilo class. And I think he totaled something like 450.
Wow.
And it's like, you've put on 650. No, sorry, more than that. Maybe 700 kilos. No, more than that even.
Way more 1140. 1140.
1140, yeah.
So 690 kilos.
Yeah.
Onto your total.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, actually, we had a guy. I think it was Whitaker, Greg. I think so. We have this guy Joseph Whitaker here, great powerlifter. He's done 965.5 in drug tested sleeves.
Yeah.
So very, very strong dude. But so we get on quite well, and he put up the story the other day and said, "All right, post your like first total, and then post your like current total as such." And everyone was like 100 kilos here and there, and it was it was quite impressive. And then I looked back and I was like, oh, actually, shit. When I typed it in, I was like 500 and 950, and I was like, shit. Oh, so okay, yeah. So it's come a while, like. But again, it was 10 years. Everyone else that was posting had been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple of people message me and they got a bit disheartened by like how much I'd put on. I'm like, well, yeah, but you've only been doing it for 20% of the time that I have. If you keep going and you take the steps along the way, there's no reason you can't with powerlifting.
Guys, can I just ask you two a question?
Sure.
Which I just didn't really take the time out to research before I came on.
We're getting a question. We're going to get a question.
Here we go. We're getting interviewed. How much time have we got?
I'm hijacking. I'm hijacking the show.
That's a podcast.
British Strength Magazine takeover.
Right, so I just sort of fell into powerlifting.
Oh, here we go. 40 minutes. Sorry, let's go.
Jackson, you just mentioned like a 950 total. You're obviously a pretty good lifter.
Average.
Like I said, I don't know your guys' background. Dave Beatty told me that, was it you who lived in the UK for a bit?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I lived over there for 2 years. Just over 2 years. Yeah. And
we might have met each other. I'm really sorry if
I was looking at your competition history. I don't think we actually ever crossed. That's what I was looking at before we did this. I was like, oh, I've probably run into him at some stage and not like clicked. But we never actually, because I was in London the whole time and did like the London comps and then worlds and stuff. So we never actually crossed paths.
Well. And don't forget London's strongest man.
Oh, come on, Greg.
Let's chuck it in there, don't. London's strongest man, 2018. Was it 2018?
Yeah, January 2018.
Yeah.
Dave managed to convince me to do a strongman comp. So I ended up winning, London's strongest man, and the boys here have never let me live it down.
No, we don't mention it too often.
What
class is that? Are you 140 or 125?
125s. Yeah. I just even then I will usually weigh in at like 122, 123 because I was 60 kilos when I started lifting, so like I really struggled to hold body weight up. So I eat up into comp all the time. I come down off season and then eat back up.
Yeah, what are you now, like 111, 113?
Oh, come on, Greg. Shit. You can tell by my fucking chin.
You're
got a bit back on.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. I'm sort of like 119, 120 at the moment. I've just started training back heavy training cycle again, so up the food a wee bit. So feeling pretty good though. I'll stay leaner this time around though, since I'm not like governed by sort of like a weight class for a comp. I'm just going to train heavy in the gym, so just see how big we can get.
Nice. So I just wanted to know, mate. So you're obviously pretty formidable. You've taught more than I have. So yeah. It's not bad. I had that was a fun comp actually. That was GBC Nationals last year. Me and another guy, Ben, we sort of headed out. So it was good fun.
He's got so much more left in him too. He's definitely another 1,000 kilo. It will be our first official. Well, maybe if he does.
Don't put that sort of fucking pressure on me, mate. I don't think it will. I'm gonna have to give it to someone else because I'm not gonna compete. And we've got that meet in July, and there's like 6 of the dudes that are going to be gunning for 1,000. So that one of them's going to get it. So
Jackson's got an event this year. It's an invitational, and I think we'll be heading for our first 1,000 kilo total on New Zealand soil by a New Zealander, I might add, because we do have Adele Manuel came over for a invitational for a GPC meet a few years back and totaled 1,000-something, 1,050. 1,050.
Oh, I thought Odell was originally from New Zealand, then moved to Australia.
Yeah, we got Australian citizenship, so we can't 100% lay claim to that as a Kiwi.
Right,
okay. He is a New Zealander by birth, but an Australian by citizenship. And
he shifted over there young as for league. So
Right.
like when he was like a teenager still to play in the league. So like he's been an Aussie for more time than he was in New Zealand, and so I've sort of claimed him. It's like Pavlova or like number 8 wire or
or Farley. But where it suits us, we'll say that he's a New Zealander.
Yeah.
Right.
But Jackson's. I mean, you're a hop, skip, and a jump away from 1,000. I think it's just on the horizon now.
Yeah, just need a good day. I had too much fucking going on last year. So we'll see. I'll compete again at some stage probably. I'm never going to not compete.
I think he's got an 1184 in him. I think he's going to take
1184. Yeah, but the problem is that Dan Bell's got like a fucking 1300 in him somewhere. Did you see those lifts? That was ludicrous, man.
That was madness.
He could have done 1200. Well, like it's good attempt selection, obviously. Like I love that he lifted like 9 RPE on everything to then, because you have to save some in your squat to get a big deadlift, and you've got to say again to get a big bench. Like you have to lift like that if you want to get the biggest total. If you want to get a big squat, sure, go hundreds on the squat, but then your bench and deadlift's going to be fucked. So like if you're lifting for the total, you have to lift like he did. Did
you guys notice? Speaking of, I don't know what was that grip you called it, Alex?
A false grip.
A false grip.
False grip or suicide grip.
Suicide.
Yeah.
Did you see Dan did suicide on his bench?
Yeah.
270.
Yeah.
272 and a half, Greg.
Sorry, 272 and a half. I'm just rounding.
Fucking hell.
Yeah,
his
I know.
first 600-pound meat bench, and Greg's already shortchanging him.
It's just easier rounding.
Sorry, Dan, if you're listening.
Sorry, Dan. Yeah, exactly. Just madness, I would have been.
Yeah, I was toying with the idea, and my coach kind of told me off and said, no suicide grip. I was just trying to kind of, mitigate some shoulder issues. I wasn't kind of allowed to do it in the end, but when I was looking it up and using it and stuff, you can see some really good compilations of bench fails where people drop it on themselves. Jesus Christ. It's called suicide for a reason, I guess.
With I think the worst I saw was a guy in Russia, wasn't it? 180 kilos, dropped it.
Yeah.
And he died. He came off the
very sad. Yeah.
Came off the platform. So it's not. I mean, it's something we'll make light of, but it's potentially very dangerous. I was at a comp several years ago with and a guy did a suicide grip. Everyone missed it, and all the refs missed it. 180, and he dropped it on his chest. Big boy though, so he had a lot of fat, I think, hopefully, which fortunately saved him. But it gave everybody a good scare.
Yeah, I think as well at competition, the Russian guy, he was benching on a bench press which didn't have safeties on.
Yeah.
So it sank all the way in, and it would have been saved. Really, if they would have had safeties on to dissipate that force.
Is that safeties mandatory in IPF comps?
Yes.
They are, aren't they? They do.
Face savers and on bench, yes.
Yeah. Just not with the squat, obviously.
On a squat, it's fucking ludicrous. I don't know why they haven't made the swap over. Like that it just blows my mind.
Even if you walk it out, which is fine.
Just walk it out of the mono and have the straps behind the rack.
Yeah.
Or have something. Otherwise, it's ridiculous.
I mean, I know it's often said that people who have monos, it's for convenience, but come on, it's not for convenience. It's for the safety is a huge factor, isn't it?
Do something. I don't know if you guys follow Blaine Sumner. But his videos, he basically rigged himself up this like seatbelt thing that he basically has attached above his squat rack, and it has a winch on it. So it's basically like a seatbelt. So like a seatbelt when you crash, it like won't let you move. But otherwise you can so it lets him go down, and as soon as there's upward movement, it'll stop letting them go down. So then it comes up, and he comes up, whatever, all good. But if he goes down, as soon as he starts coming up, and if he misses, it just catches it straight away.
Yeah,
that's clever.
Something like that. It's not hard, and you've got people squatting these big weights. I mean, that there was a classic one. I was, there's that one. I don't know if you guys remember. It was. I don't mean to. It's not fed bashing, but it was an IPF Worlds or an IPF Nationals in the States, and it was Kelly Branton, the Canadian guy. You remember him? He got banned. He was number 3 in the world at one stage, the super heavyweight Canadian guy. And he was squatting.
Was that with the spotters, and they were like 15 years old or something, young kids?
Yeah, dude. And they're trying to get it back in the rack, and the bar's falling off him, and he had to bail, and there's 400 kilos just flying, and it's just, have something.
Yeah.
It's not
In fairness
hard.
to the IPF, I've seen that with other feds as well, and other competitions.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's not. That's just a big example. I remember.
It's
you know,
it's
you've got this
ridiculous,
guy
yeah.
squatting 400 kilos
Mm,
with no safety net, except 5 people who probably all weigh 400 kilos between them.
yeah.
You know.
I think it was on King of the Lifts. I can't remember the host's name, but he mentioned the fact that when he was at a competition in Europe, one of the competitions in Europe, there was a spot load crew there, and they were a professional outfit. Did you?
Professional. They're from Slovakia.
Are they? I didn't know the detail. Slovakians that are paid.
Yeah.
And you pay them as a meat promoter, as a team, a professional team, to come over and spot load, and they travel around do spot loading.
I reckon
That's
that's
so
legit.
cool.
That's cool, isn't it? Yeah, I know. Can you believe you can make a living out of that? But I guess in Europe, where every father, son, daughter, everyone's powerlifting. So
Yeah, and you've got countries within 2 hours of each other.
Exactly,
2 hours drive. So it's these two guys. I actually looked up the story behind this. So it's these two guys, and they basically saw that niche, and said, "Fuck it, why don't we do this?" And so they have this thing where basically you come on, they'll like hire you as such and pay you like minimum wage, whatever. But and you're only allowed to do like a regional level meet or a novice level meet, and you get experience. It's like you almost have your learner's license, or your P plates over in the UK, and then you sit the test and they grade you. So like they time you how quickly can you load and unload 300 kilos on a bar.
nice.
Or like they'll purposely like dump a squat or what, like, you know what I mean, like something like that. Like they put you in this test and in a controlled environment, obviously, but
That's very European, isn't it? Like they'll purposefully dump a squat. That would only happen in like an Eastern Bloc European country. Like they come up hard as nails there.
If you lose a finger, it's your fault.
Yeah, and so then by the time they had them at the Sweden IPF Worlds, and so obviously the guys that are there, the team of 8 that they have there are like, that's their A team. That's the dream team for spot loaders, apparently. And just it was so quick. I've seen some videos from that meet, man. The spotter loading is ridiculous. They're like in formation, like how they're putting plates on and off.
Well, can you imagine? You've got the premier spot load team. You've got the premium refs. That competition is going to fly.
Yeah, man.
You'll be unwrapping your legs, and then you're going to get.
Don't use wraps, Greg. Wraps are cheating.
Don't use your wraps, eh? But you'll be coming off the platform, be having a drink, and you'll be back on again for your second.
Yeah, like the MC, almost like he's sitting there and he's like, da-da-da, good lift, spinning a yarn, and then, oh shit, bar's loaded already.
Bar's loaded.
Bar's loaded. Sorry, you're up. Hurry up. Are you ready? Have you got your sleeves on? Whatever. Like, it's ridiculous. Insane though. But although even with going back to the safety thing, I remember seeing a video. This is like a tales of what puts people off powerlifting. This is horrendous. But it was like an Eastern European country again. It might have been Russia. Don't know. Hopefully they don't turn up on my doorstep. But they were using a mono, but without straps. Like, what are you doing? And this guy fell and he blew out both his knees. I don't know if you saw that video on Instagram. He like falls and his knees just go out the front and he needs like double knee reconstruction because the weight obviously went down with him.
Squat?
Yeah. It was that one.
Kilo, and the guy basically, he squatted. He was so quad dominant, wasn't he?
Yep.
It was almost like a sissy squat with 400 kilos.
Yep.
And he was really unstable at the top, and you knew what was going to happen straight away.
And there's no straps.
Yeah.
Why is there no straps?
Because it's WPC.
Is there no straps in WPC?
Nope.
Why not?
I have no idea. I actually don't know.
Alex, sort it out.
Like, that is fucking ludicrous. Let's give you a squat that you can't walk out, put some knee wraps on that help you lift more, and then not have a safety catch there. Like, that's a fantastic fucking idea.
I think there's an argument that with the straps there, I think people have like trapped the fingers and broken the fingers and hands and stuff. I don't know, like,
no,
fully. But I think that's the argument.
I've seen that. Just don't put your hand through the strap.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's like, to me, that's just common sense. I mean, so there's a guy here, Dave Mon. We've talked about him before, I think, Greg. At the NZ Open, he dumped a squat in the warm-up room. Sorry, Dave, but I don't know why you're going that heavy in a warm-up. But anyway, so he dumps the squat in a warm-up room, but he's got his arms through the slings, and obviously the bar goes off his back, and it fucked his elbow. His elbow just blew up. But like, yeah. So either have the straps, if you've got a close hands, just have the straps out really wide where the gate is. Or if you've got a wider grip, have the like I have the straps hanging. So like my grip's like out here. So so just for people who are listening, you know, I've got quite a wide grip. I'm outside the power rings. I have the straps just hanging in between, you know, in between my shoulders and my hands. So then if the bar gets away on me and I do need to dump it, which I haven't done, but if I do need to dump it, it's out. I'm done. You know, like.
But again, that comes down to knowledge and experience.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Why these people are running comps?
They should know. They should
know. You're running a comp. You should know.
Yeah.
You should at least be a powerlifter.
That's one of those silly rules. Not having straps on the mono. That just seems a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't seem necessary to say we don't want straps there.
Yeah.
Back to Alex. I know we've been going for a while, but I do want to ask you. Now you were going to do WRPF Worlds in Russia. Now that sounds like a pretty extreme event.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty extreme country to go to be quite honest.
Yeah, powerlifting in Russia would be ultimate, wouldn't it? I mean,
yeah,
you're going to get greeted at the airport as a powerlifter. You know, there's going to be a red carpet.
Yeah, I want to do it this year. It's apparently in December. I want to do it in sleeves because they have a sleeves category there. I want to experience Moscow, and I would like to do it. Like, I would like to get an invite for it. I did start doing some BPF stuff, British Powerlifting Federation stuff last year. I think it was last year. No, it was the year before 20. I don't even know what year. All the years.
It's still 20.
Not last year. The year before last year. I started doing some BPF stuff.
Into one.
Yeah,
with COVID and stuff, it's hard to figure out when it was. But they had a affiliation with WRPF. This year I don't. Pardon?
This is Marcus Griffiths, say?
Yes, yeah. This year I don't plan on doing one of those comps. I kind of only really plan on I think maybe doing the GPC Pro or the Irish Pro or the ABS. I really don't know. But I would like to get a qualification for the WRPF Worlds somehow without going through having to do several comps, like a qualifier, then a British, then WRPF Worlds. But yeah, I definitely want to be there this year because I said I wanted to do it last year. Obviously, COVID happened, but they still had the Worlds. So, maybe if I would have got a qualification, I don't know what the travel restrictions were back then, but maybe I would have been able to do it. So I want to go through it.
There's no COVID in Russia. They're beating it.
Yeah,
it's like America. If you pretend it doesn't exist, it's not there, is it?
Don't talk about it. It's not there. Yeah.
But yeah, I want to go through with it this year. I want to put some money aside and I want to actually do it. I've said it on the podcast now, so I'd better, I'd better have some pictures up of me in Russia in 10 months or whatever it is.
Well, I know we'll be watching.
I'm a liar. Yeah.
They do some, I remember, they do some pretty cool comps. Like they do, obviously the full power, but then I remember at one stage they did like a bench only and they did like 200 kilos for reps or whatever, like they had some cool divisions like that.
And that was the women's division, no?
Yeah, probably. I assume so. Like just crazy. But they and they have like flamethrowers and like they have like a rock band. Like honestly, dude, that's powerlifting. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do vodka between every attempt.
Yeah, otherwise you get it. That's one guaranteed white light, like.
One of the only regrets, honestly, that I already have in the sport is Boris Shiko came over to do a seminar, and it was in Leeds, so it was like an hour away from me, and we went. A few friends of mine actually went, and my only regret is that I could have given Boris Shiko and his kind of translator guy, his mate Dmitry Spridonov, I could have given them a lift to Nando's afterwards.
Oh,
I could have eaten with them, and for some bizarre reason, I chose to go home. I still can't figure out why I did that, but Why didn't that would have been amazing. just
Cheeky
saying,
Nando's,
yes,
mate. Come on.
I know. Boris Chico
Cheeky
too.
Nando's with Boris Shaco.
Wow. So he doesn't speak English at all, does he? Because I did
No.
we connected on Facebook, but I haven't got the guts yet to ask him any questions, to say, hey, come on.
Yeah. He had there was a girl there translating for him. Whose name she was Russian born, but in England. Whose name escapes me, but yeah, she was translating. I think they went around the country doing that.
Did you learn anything?
Pardon?
Did you learn anything from the seminar?
From Sheik? Yeah. Mainly, he put across a lot of his programming ideas. Just kind of the way he would kind of use block periodization, stuff like that. The way he would use assistance exercises. And I think a lot of the training that we did, when I say we, like my peer group, was kind of based off Chico anyway. So
that's how I started, was Shaco. Yeah. Long workouts, but
the work. It's about hard work, isn't it? It personifies hard work in powerlifting. Chico, I think. Yeah.
If you can nail a shake. I mean, the entry level program was, I think it was 29, a template 29 or something. That is torture, and that was just the start of it. It just got harder. And he openly says, and in these programs, I think the master level up, for example, do not attempt natural, because you will not be able to do it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So in terms of the magazine, Alex, tell us about that as well. Like, how do you subscribe? What do you cover? Who does the writing?
So we cover really any strength sport. It's kind of heavily geared towards powerlifting. However, there's strongman, strongwoman articles in there too. Tested, untested powerlifting, all mainly in the UK. But we've even had Marcos do some write-ups of Pro Raw, Big Dogs, that type of thing. And we have interviews with, I try to select the UK's best strength athletes to interview. So we'll have an interview every single time. We'll feature up and coming athletes. We'll cover articles on programming, nutrition, even kind of lifestyle things, whereby, stuff like, we've even had articles on garage gyms, how to set up the best kind of garage gym. In this one, for example, we have an article on how to film your lifts, like how to do it properly so that your coach can get the best visual feedback possible.
That's
because a lot of people,
I can imagine that
will film squats from the front from an above angle. It makes it look in. So we have all that.
Don't tell everyone our secrets.
I think Jackson's got about 5 cameras around him. They're in different angles.
Yeah, I picked the best angle.
Yeah.
Writers wise, that rotates quite a bit, but I like to make sure that the quality of each article is good. I don't just throw any old thing in there. We've got some good writers, too many really, because like I say, it rotates from issue to issue to mention. But I'm lucky as well to have some friends who are very knowledgeable in this field, and I can rely on them to write the odd article every now and again. Just to throw names out there: Andy Smith, who is my coach, Matt Beenham, who's he's gone very far in terms of the sports science world, and Martin Brown, who was a great powerlifter until he had quite a catastrophic injury to his spine. In terms of how to subscribe, BritishStrengthMagazine.com, and just click subscribe. Simple as that. If you're ever on my end.
And you get access to all the back. You get access to all the back copies too when you subscribe too.
Yeah. So all you have to do is subscribe there, and then email info@BritishStrengthMagazine.com. Just make your email titled "Back Issues." Makes it easier to find, and just request them. Just so you can have the back issues, please, and then I'll send them.
Nice, excellent. And that is how often is that magazine published?
Every other month.
Every other month, yeah. And it's online. It's online only.
Yeah, it's online. You read it on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, whatever, you know. Yeah.
I feel like that's very uncommon these days, to even come across a regular publishing of any kind of strength sport or any sport in general. It seems to be almost a forgotten art. It's a shame, really, because I mean, you all you do is where do you go now to find your information, to get reputable information anyway, credible information? You've got to make up your own mind by searching through the forums and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have physical copies made, maybe kind of like more on request, because it's quite expensive to publish a limited number. But that's something. But like you say, Greg, I mean, I want to I want to keep it around, keep this magazine thing around, because like you say, it's not, a magazine is becoming a lost thing. People are reading articles online, sure, more so they're watching YouTube videos, but you can get more from an article when it's there in front of your face. There's more detail able to be described to you, or it's described in a different way anyway. And I definitely want to do this to keep that around, because like I'm the same as you guys. I love a good magazine, back in the day when Flex magazine was around, when
Flex, my favorite.
Yeah, Muscular Development as well. That was something to look forward to each month. So
I used to pull out the poster. There used to be a poster in one of them. I can't remember which one, but there was a poster every time it came out. And my favorite poster was this almost, I think it was like 6 foot tall poster of black and white Arnold doing doing like a side chest. Beautiful, beautiful picture. And in the gym, it was on my wall in my bedroom for 5 years as a teenager.
Still there now, Greg. Don't lie.
I think my friends thought I was gay, but that's it's Arnold. I'd be gay for Arnold. Yeah, maybe not now. He's 70 or something.
But well, if you were gay with Arnold now, imagine the money you'd have.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So I think you still would.
Yeah.
I definitely think about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd
just get the divorce settlement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get no prenup. Make sure there's no prenup.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And the podcast, Alex, it's a British Strength Radio, comes out is once every fortnight, is it?
I try for once every fortnight. It's not that regular. I try not to force it to be once every fortnight, but that's what I kind of aim for. That's on all the podcasting platforms like your Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and others.
And I would highly recommend both. I listen to the podcast myself. It's brilliant. There aren't too many powerlifting podcasts out there, but it's one of my premium choices, along with Pick Speak with Thomas and John. But Pick Speak and British Strength Radio have been a staple of mine for a long time now. So hey, I want to thank you, Alex, for the podcast. It's been brilliant. It's
mate, I want to thank both of you for having me on today. Because I looked, because I couldn't find you guys at first, because I looked on Spotify,
Jackson's fault.
and I couldn't find you there. So I looked on YouTube, because you mentioned YouTube, and I saw the people you'd had on, and massive honor for me to be amongst those people, because from the UK you've had Dave Beaton, Dell, they're both legends, so I wouldn't put myself next to those guys, but I'm super happy that you considered me, so thank you.
No, it's been an honor for us to have you on. It's interesting you mentioned the likes of Dave and Delroy. I think obviously thanks to Jackson we've got people like that on, but people like Brandon Allen, we have no connection otherwise. But powerlifters for some reason have been incredibly obliging when we've reached out to them. I don't know if it's the same with any other sport. If I was reaching out to any kind of Premier Football League star or a tennis star, I don't think we'll be getting the same sort of response. But powerlifters, for some reason, have on a whole remain largely very humble and down to earth, and just willing to put time aside, which is great. So, and you're one of them as well. So, no, thanks again. It's been a good chat.
Thank you, pal. Yeah, I just to reinforce your point there, just written an article, and it features heavily the heights and weights of lifters, because I'm trying to get I basically put a table together of both the male and the female of the elite lifters in the world and all their heights and weights, just so it gives people an idea of how big people are and how big you would have to get to be an elite powerlifter. So I had to go through Open Powerlifting and contact all these people via their Instagrams, and the response, I ended up with 50 plus replies, and these are like the best people in the world.
Yeah,
Replies from guys like Dan Bell, and I just thought, you know what? A lot of people in this sport are like class acts. You don't expect everyone to reply. Everyone's got different stuff on. Might get lost in the message requests, but you feel really, really humbled that someone of that stature with that following takes the time out to reply to you as an unknown, especially if they're American. What do they want with British Strength magazine? So, or Australian even, and they're replying. So it's like, kind of really grateful for that.
No, exactly. We've had the same response when we've reached out to people. I think anyone under 500,000 or 50,000 or even 60,000 Instagram tends to reply. But if you've got 1 million, 2 million, I don't think our response rate has been too great so far. But I can imagine you've got 1 million to 2 million followers, you're getting a flooded inbox every day.
Yeah, you'd have to get someone else to manage your Instagram then, wouldn't you? Surely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You've got that. Who have you got managing your Instagram, Jackson?
Hey.
Who have you got managing your Instagram?
Just little old me.
Just little old you?
Yeah. Decline.
You've got a lot of fans in Thailand as well. I've noticed a lot of followers from Thailand. Is that true?
From Thailand?
Yeah.
Actually?
Not many kidding, mate.
Oh, I was going to say, I was like, shit, where do I find these stats?
No, you often hear about that, purchasing Instagram followers from Taiwan and so forth, but no, you're not.
Yeah. When you, it's really easy to tell where if someone's bought their followers. You click on, and if they're all from Thailand or Taiwan or somewhere, it's like,
yeah,
interesting.
And they're all like, and the followers that they have are like the names of the people are just like slight deviations of each other. So it's like Brian Smith 23, Brian Smith 68, Brian Smith 87, and you're like, all from Thailand. I didn't know there were so many Brian Smiths in Thailand. Yes,
it's a very common English name over there.
Yeah, it's just it is funny. It is funny. It does. I don't know. People just are quite like they want to seem important by pixels on a screen.
Yeah, we judge our importance by the number of likes, comments.
Do something with your life instead. How's that? Like impact some people, and then you'll get people following you. It's a hard one.
Yeah, it's very hard to understand why you would want to buy followers. It's it makes me feel quite sad in a way. It's like, why do you feel you need that? Like it's like you say it to seem important, but does that matter? Really?
It does to them, I suppose. I don't know. When I was younger, it used to be on Facebook, and people would be like, "Oh, how many Facebook friends do you have?" And I was like, "I don't even have Facebook," and they're like, okay.
You're not even.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, just because you've got like 2,000 people that you've like pushed accept on Facebook or added, you don't even know them. Like, how about you have that relationship with people in real life?
It's an artificial
exactly.
world. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. If you were to invite all of them to your 80th, who's going to turn up?
Two. My wife and my mum.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's. And at the end of the day, you only want people that you are going to turn up to a birthday party, your 80th birthday party, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Alex. We'll let you go. Thank you very much. I don't know what time it is over there at the moment. What time is it?
Let me have a look. It's 11:15 p.m.
Wow. Okay. I'm so sorry for keeping you up for so long.
I stay up this late anyway. Oh, you do? I'm even late for going to bed.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, we're absolutely grateful. Thank you very much.
I can't even make it to bed on time.
You've been an excellent guest, and we wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll get you back on at some stage too in the future.
That'd be great. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you again, guys. Great to meet you both.
Cool.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, mate.
See you, Alex.
See you later.